Hey guys, what's going on? This is Jeremy Vanderloop with Crest Community. Welcome to the Let's Get Coffee podcast here. My dear friend, Coach Kim.
Yes.
And we're laughing because it's the first of the year, and we're in new strides and just like trying to continually walk with the right mindset. And so this was some fun that we had to jump through the hoops. But we're live. Well, not live, but we're actually shooting a podcast.
Yes.
And so we'll just kind of jump right in. And now we were talking. You've never been on a podcast before.
Nope, I have not.
Yeah, so it's really simple. We're just going to talk.
Okay.
And
I
so,
can talk. That I can do.
Yeah, and you have a lot to say, a lot of good things to say. And so let's just jump in. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? Where are you from? What's a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I am a life coach. My focus is working with women over 30 who are still trying to figure out what they want to be, where they want to make an impact. It's so funny. I'm a mom as well. I've got 3 young adult children, and they came through the hard knocks of homeschooling with mom as their primary teacher, my husband as the principal, as he likes to say. So my son went through 12 years of homeschool, and the 2 daughters went through less, maybe 8 years.
Yeah.
So they got the full Monty with homeschooling. One benefit of that is that they got a chance to see the community as we designed it. It wasn't that they were just rolling along, bumping along. So it's so interesting. I came from a broken family. We said, you know what, we're homeschoolers, but we want to create a homeschooling community. So we created a homeschooling network. And
you guys created it?
We created it.
So it didn't exist?
It did not exist. It was myself and 2 other girlfriends. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
So I'm here in Tampa now. We've been here for 2 years. But in Baltimore, when we did the homeschooling community, myself and 2 other homeschool moms, we said, we can do this. We put together a homeschool community called Umoja.
Had you heard of this before or no?
Had I heard of homeschooling?
Had you ever heard of this being done before?
No.
Oh man! So we can effectively say we got one of the first creators of the homeschool co-op.
Well, yeah,
because they're all over the place now. That's why I'm like kind of shocked. Like what? So you created, out of thin air, just like out of a need, not out of thin air, a co-op.
Yeah, and it was necessary. Our children got so much out of it. At the height of the growth, we had about 30 families who were all involved. And within that 30 families, like 98% of them were husband, wife, children.
Wow.
So our children saw this natural formulation of the family.
Yeah.
And so they saw dads stepping in to play bankers and, play different roles and be our sports guy. It was just an amazing reality. And even today when I talk to these ladies, we call that, Camelot for us. That was just such an incredible time. And our children, even now, Jerry, my kids are like, so you're going to homeschool our kids, right? And I'm like, no.
No. There's only one part of that life that does that.
Yes.
And you were it. Now, what you can do, you can go do that yourself.
Yes, but they loved it so much. And even when COVID kicked in, I said to my daughter, I said, you know what, now all of these kids in Baltimore are being homeschooled because they are at home. And she said, no, Mom, they're not being homeschooled. They're being, a curriculum is being forced on them, a mandated curriculum. That's not homeschooling. So it was so many unique things and so much exposure that they got early on. And Jeremy, that is really, I have to say, that's really what made me start coaching. Because in the child, and so I taught my child, but in the co-op, I would teach other students as well. And the hunger and curiosity that they had at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm like, why does that dissipate? Why does it disappear when these little guys are like, we can do anything?
What do you think? Why do you think it disappears and dissipates?
Because the world beats up on them.
How so? How's the world beat up on? Because it's us. It's not them. It's us.
Well,
right? We were 7, 8, 9, 10.
Absolutely.
Right? And we were the same little ones.
We are like a huge, we come here with this potential. You've gone to like carnivals and you see these huge floating balloons, right? That's how we come here. Like we're just, and they're just, entertainment. So it might be a person. It's like, or
Yeah.
maybe like Macy's Day Parade,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this huge balloon. That's how we come. We come with all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then the world, us, situation, society, it's like someone comes in and pulls out that little plug, and you just end up
And just go flat, right?
You're deflating until you're now at this level, and you're at the I can't mode. I would, but I can't, you know, and that's what the suffering. But then here's the thing, you know, the term, you know, we are all walking around with in a quiet desperation. So I might be suffering at some level, but then I look around and see all these other people suffering too, and I say, "Oh, that's
just
what's
life.
supposed. That's hey, it could be worse. I'm living. I'm here."
And then you see like the outliers, right, who have not lost that, and sometimes
Yes.
society just beats them down, right?
Yes.
Like the dreamers and the you can't do that. I can relate a lot to that. People,
Yes.
a lot of stuff I've done. People are like, you can't do that. That's not how things are done. Oh, okay. No one ever told me that. You know. So why? So what? Why is? I mean, this is a great conversation because I have my opinions about it because I'm a dreamer. I love dreaming. We've talked about this, and I have 4 beautiful kids. You've been to our house. We've had lunch and you've seen my rowdy kids. But they're amazing, and they have this wonder about them. And I think that's probably one of my greatest fears as a father is that I'm gonna grow them up too quick.
Yeah.
You know, and that's real hard, right? In today's world, is you just have this childlike wonder, right? And they just see through this lens of beauty. I mean, it's just so how does somebody get that back while also having the responsibilities of the day? I mean, because there's some practicality to this. Like my kids don't have to worry about clothes or the house or electric bill or food. In fact, if they did, they would simply. I had to put one of these electronic locks on my pantry, and my mom was babysitting our kids last night because we had to we had to take the baby to the hospital last night. Yeah, he's okay though. He's okay. He's just this really bad cold that's going around. We wanted to make sure he didn't have pneumonia or RSV or something like that. It ended up just the cold is just a really bad cold, and it's just he became very lethargic, and we're just kind of. Let's go. Right. We had a doctor's appointment already, but it was like he glazed over. You know, as a mom, that's
of course. Better safe than
as a
sorry.
parent, you're like, let's go to the hospital.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we did. So my mom was there last night, and these locks they have the thumbprint. So I don't trust Brittany.
It's on the record.
With information
Yes.
that's very simple that my children can get out of her.
Yes.
So let me rephrase this. I don't trust my children to not manipulate my wife out of information like they have already done with the remote controller.
Yeah.
And so you can guess.
You're seeing the pattern.
Yeah. That lock on that pantry
Yes.
has 0 code. The only way someone gets in that pantry is me and Brittany have to put our thumbs on it or they got to cut our thumbs off. So I'm very attached to my thumbs, so I'm not letting any of that happen.
Absolutely.
And so we were at this house. My mom texted, "Hey, what's the code to get into this pantry? The kids want a snack." I said, "There ain't none. Now go tell them to go in the fridge and eat a piece of fruit, right?" Because they were trying to play my mom.
Yes, of course.
And so like the whole point is, if I were to let my kids choose food, they're gonna choose crackers over broccoli, right? They're gonna choose these things that are really bad for them, but they get the instant gratification, the instant like dopamine hit of like, "Oh, this feels good, it tastes good."
Of course.
And so that's just a funny story of why I fell in love with these locks that we have here at Crest. They have thumbprint scanners, and I was like, I'm going to put one. I kept threatening them. I'm going to put one on this pantry, kids, if you don't. And they stopped asking.
That's right.
Because they weren't asking permission. They were just going in. And we'd find Zeph. It'll be like 4 next month. And he'd be climbing up there. It's dangerous. He'd be 6 feet in the air getting snacks.
Wow.
He's like, dude, what is wrong with you
taking
guys?
a hit. You get chips.
Exactly. And so we're talking about these kids and homeschooling, and we just completely bunny trailed. But they have this like lack of fear, and then fear's created in them through negative experiences, right? But what I was kind of getting into that, there's obviously a little bit of you want them to grow, and as children grow, there is the reality of the responsibility of life.
Yeah.
And so you can't act like a child your entire life. That's negligence to your experience. Sooner or later, you got to grow into being a young adult, into being an adult, a single adult, into being a married adult, with a significant other and a spouse, into being a parent and then a grandparent, and then you're done. It's gone, right?
Yeah.
Those are 80 years if you're lucky, 90 years.
Yeah.
here of impact that we can have. And so how do you get this delicate dance between keeping the childlike wonder with also the weight of responsibilities that we have to have seasonally?
Yeah.
Right? And how do we keep the joy, a childlike joy, maybe? That's what it is, right? And that we're admiring.
And I think, so I want to say this, that when we are born, we have only two fears.
Okay, I'm listening.
One is the fear of noise, like loud noise. You'll see a baby be startled. And the other one is a fear of falling.
It's a fight or flight, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if you get to the edge, just that fear. Those are the only two fears we have.
Naturally.
Everything else is learned.
I wonder, is that the root of everything, right? Because when I have a problem sleeping at night, right, it's the fear of falling, right?
Yeah.
Falling into complete and utter demise and failure. The pressures of the business, the pressures of the life, the pressures of everything, fear of falling.
Well, that's more,
But think of that, right? Like metaphorically.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I'm just maybe I'm digging.
It could be, but I think you nailed it when you use the word specifically childlike, because all the things you're talking about, when I grew up as a child, I left the things, the toys of but when I became a man, but as a child, it's what you need to transport into adulthood is a childlikeness.
That's one of my favorite philosophers, by the way, is Paul.
Yeah.
I love Paul's philosophies and what he did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Because he is so realistic. One of the favorite things I like that he says is that we have to beat our bodies into submission. Yeah. Because we know the flesh is like chill, like what?
I think that was figuratively. I don't think that was physical.
No.
I don't think it's physical.
It's not flagellation. It's not
no,
that.
It's not that. I just want to clarify
still
that.
Like, hey, let me pull back. I need to pull back because if
mindset,
you don't pull back, you're just going to be all over the place.
Well, he had the philosophy that said, take every thought captive.
Absolutely.
Right? Take every thought captive.
Yes.
And just, I mean, Paul's like one of my, I just love, he's respected in every walk of life. Anyone who knows who Paul is or was, the Greeks knew him. Paul was he's one of the greatest minds to ever walk the planet. And so I just love his principles he talks about like that. Yeah. But you're right. Yeah. Sorry.
Even one of this living by example, right? So one of the things that really stands out about him is that he was walking 100% in the wrong direction, and he turned and came back. And he could have just made excuses the whole time, but when he got fresh knowledge, he turned. Yeah. And that's where that's the accountability. That's I'm evolving. I used to think this way. Now I see. I was looking with blinders. Now I see this way. So how can I continue to focus here when there's so much more for me to impact?
Yeah. And so kind of drawing back in on the conversation, Paul was talking about, when I was a child, I thought like a child. I acted like a child. And now that I'm a man, it's talking about maturing. And then you have even, in my opinion, the greatest philosopher is Jesus. Like, he's just awesome. Whether people believe him incarnate or divine or anything, it's that his philosophy is absolutely unchallengeable. Yeah. He just is, and we hold to a faith within him. But not everybody does. Not every member at Crest does either.
Right,
so this is a podcast that we talk about everything in life, and so we have every walks and every belief here. But for me, that philosophy, he said, come like a childlike faith.
Yes.
Right, childlike, and that's where he kind of draws in childlike behavior, not childish behavior.
Yes, and we see the people around him that were like, "Hey, kids, get back!"
Yeah,
and Jesus like, "No, let them come."
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like one of the things I love about the stories of Jesus, when he gives counsel, oftentimes, like, he could just give a paragraph, he could give a book on something, and he's like, he who is without sin, cast a stone. And you're like, wait, what? And it's so profound.
The mastery in the poetic and philosophy of just taking something extremely complex and going very simple. The critical thought. Executed in that, right? And never performing the same thing twice in the same way to create a ritualistic habit of worship, right? And to not go on that tangent, but the process is like, so you're homeschooling, you got co-op, you got all this stuff, and you have these kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, are still in this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to hold on to that with my kids as much as possible, and because they're childish.
Yes.
which is what I have to discipline and correct and grow them out of, while maintaining and fostering their childlike behavior.
And the big word that adults are coming into now, Einstein preached on it, talked about it, but we're now embracing it and we're seeing it. And the word is curiosity.
Expound on that. I don't know about that about Einstein.
Is that he said that, above intelligence, he would choose curiosity.
Oh.
Because that always gives you, what else? Well, tell me more. Well, let me learn more about that. Because once you shut down, going back to fixed mindset, I know it all, I got it all, I know everything about that thing, then you're literally, you can see the window closing on your opportunities, your options, your appreciation of the things around you. So even with your children and us big, tall children, the key is being mindful and just being in the moment. Like, what am I, even in this room? Wow, how am I taking information in? And to be always doing that versus, you mean that room down the hall? It's like, wow, did you notice? And I used to crack up when I would watch like different Law and Order or shows like that. And it's like, pick out the perp. Here's a lineup. And I'm like, I'm not picking up on people. My kids and I were just laughing about this over the holiday. If we were sitting in a sketch room with a sketch artist, we'd be telling them, they'd be like, ma'am, this is a stick person. That's all. Like the detail of how close are someone's eyes. Did they have a pointy nose? Like paying attention, that's a curiosity thing.
It is. Who do you think in our modern era that represented the most right now? It's impacted the world the most by maintaining their curiosity and pairing it with intelligence, being curious first and then letting their intelligence drive. I have a name in my mind who I'm thinking of, but I want to see who you're thinking of.
I have someone who passed away, and just what he did, the way he did things was phenomenal to me. And the person is Nelson Mandela.
Nelson, okay, yeah.
That he would be curious enough to say, you know what? There's another way. Like, I can do what you all want me to do because I'm in charge now, but there's another way. So that's a curiosity factor. I don't know the outcome, but I'm willing to hedge my bets on this and see how it plays out.
So what are the key top 3 things you think Nelson Mandela did through his childlike curiosity that impacted us today?
One of the things is to examine the situation, and it's very simple. It's a 3-part. This is where we were, this is where we are, and this is where we're going. So how do I bridge that gap? Because I'm going to take certain actions, and either the actions are going to point me towards that, or it's going to circumvent me, our society, and we're going to be in a detour, and we may be in a worse situation with civil war. We may be in a worse situation than we were. So I'm going to do the unconventional, and I'm going to, make it work from that point on. And then you have to persuade people. They could have just thrown a coup and it's like, you're out. But he was so intelligent. He was so compassionate. He was so true that people were like, well, maybe he's got something here. I'll try it. If you're in, I'm in. So all of that, the influence is a deal maker in his
It's because he was asking the right questions. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Rather than reacting, he was collecting information.
Yeah.
Processing it, pondering it. I should have done what you did. My phone's going off. And then getting that going, right?
Yes.
And my person, did you hit your 3? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, my person that I was thinking of was Steve Jobs.
Okay.
I thought Steve Jobs absolutely through his childlike wonder and curiosity. I think he absolutely shook up the world. Right? And kind of beat all odds too at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to just right there. Focused. Do not disturb. I love that option, by the way. Speaking of Steve Jobs, right?
Yes.
Brilliant company, brilliant visionary, unbalanced in so many ways, but his ability to think through and dream up the iPod.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
what started it all.
Yep.
The iPod. And his ability to problem solve and create solutions and create culture and absolutely shift culture and make minimalistic dress for a executive cool,
Yes,
right? I
yes.
mean, he's the first one I could think of, right? That was just like, no, we are just a bunch of guys in Silicon Valley
Yeah.
who are just having fun. We're literally open source codes,
Right.
figuring this out. We're in a community of this complex system and ecology of entrepreneurs and being the most innovative. But he rose to the top of the most innovative area in the world.
Yes,
during our
absolutely.
generation, right? Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, and he, and then why in the world would Bill Gates invest $100 million into Steve Jobs out the gate?
Yeah.
Because he just knew who Steve
Yeah.
Jobs was,
Yeah.
right?
He saw something.
He
Yeah.
knew it. He's like, well, this guy's gonna put me out
Yeah.
of business if I don't invest. I better bet on him too,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And so he knew how his mind worked, and highly intelligent, highly intelligent, but he just could dream of things.
Yeah.
And I think it was just awesome, and that was the guy I thought, just like his leadership has changed the world.
Absolutely.
Right? His technology. I mean, I remember before the iPhone came out, I lived in Africa, and I had, they weren't the first touchscreen phone. I don't know if
Correct.
right? So
Yeah.
I had one of those old Windows phones that had like a stylus and a keyboard. Do you remember those or no? I had one of those. I got one when I lived in Africa.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. And then it was like the next year, the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the iPhone, and it was just, and kids now are going to freak out because how crazy this is. But I remember, I'm sure you remember this too, the very first iPhone, a buddy of mine had it, and looking at the GPS and how it followed you.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the
Yes.
most insane,
Yes.
insane technology I have ever seen. And you don't need a stylus. You can do it with your finger. Right? I was, I think, 18, 19 when the iPhone came out. And so I would say like my generation is the first generation that grew up with technology.
Right.
Well, my kids' generation is a generation. And the little bit, that little guys like underneath me are the ones that grew up in technology. And so they're,
Gotcha.
but then the technology boom, you grew up with technology, right?
Oh yeah, and more so with transition, because
Yeah.
I remember doing my term papers. I had to write a 30-page paper in Spanish on my typewriter in
Oh, wow.
college. So
Yeah.
it's like it was no edit. It's like white out. And so now it's like this is great. You type and edit, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The whole shift is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I tell people there's no greater time to be alive, for me, in my perspective.
There's
Like,
not.
but you gotta, and I'm not even gonna call out a name, but I have a very dear friend who was purchasing a book from me yesterday.
Yeah.
She's in another state. And I said, just use the system, I don't know, she was transposing numbers on a card, yada, yada. And I said, well, just cash at me or Zelle me or Venmo. She's like, what?
Yeah.
All of that was just like foreign to her.
And it's going so fast.
That's what I told
It's going
her.
so fast. Machine learning, AI technology, this whole thing, like, for me as an entrepreneur, I'm constantly trying to figure out how to automate the mechanical and process through technology, machine learning, AI,
Yes.
so that I can empower the people and have less people, a greater impact in their lives.
Yes.
Pay them 2 times the standard, but get
Right.
4 times the output because of technology and systems. But it's these guys that dreamed it, right?
Oh, yeah.
They dreamed it, and they went against all odds,
Yes.
right? To dream it. You read these books, and you had these kids, right? And it's also perfect timing. Like Malcolm Gladwell was talking about this, right? And just like these guys that had the opportunity in like the 10,000 hours and these different things, like Bill Gates, just was at the right place at the right time and had the ability to get into the university, right? Just had that just so happened had the state of the art computer that he could practice his cards all the time, and would work all night and then go to school in the morning, right? By the time he was a kid, he was ready to take on IBMs and all these different things, and that's what created these guys. But they took the risks though, like this childlike wonder.
Yes.
Coming back into that verse being childish.
Yeah.
They were not childish. They were very much mature.
Right.
And they had a focus that we can do this, and this is we can achieve this.
Yes.
But they still didn't lose their position of innovation.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they showed up. You have to show up for your own dream. You can't just cast your dream and hope it lands. No, you gotta shoot it, and then you gotta run under it to support it. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
And that running under it, that's work. that is the work part.
That is the work
part.
part.
And that's where people kind of miss it sometimes. It's not a, click your arms or click your heels or whatever. No, you got to push through until it gains momentum. And then the momentum will carry it, and help you continue to move it. But we still look at, we said all the time, why is McDonald's, and this goes back to Jerry Seinfeld, right? It's like, why is McDonald's doing commercials? He's like, we know you've sold billions and billions of hamburgers.
Yeah. Because they know Chick-fil-A is coming right up behind them.
But even before Chick-fil-A, it's like, we know you can't sleep. Oh, you can, but you'll lose pace. You'll lose space, So
you'll lose market share.
Yeah, how important is your dream to continue to be innovative around it? Shaving off the rough edges and pushing through, because one thing, I have a friend who is a musician, phenomenal singer.
Oh, thank you.
You're
I'm just
welcome.
kidding. I'm kidding.
One other friend, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to." Kick off an album, and I'm going to do some great things, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And that he's a gospel singer. And he didn't do it. And so I said, so when are you going to do it? Like in 5 years?
Why do you think he didn't do it?
Well, wait a minute. And I said, and this will go back to answering part of that. The issue becomes, why are you doing it? And when you do it, who it will impact. I said, imagine when it hits that there are 50,000 people who come to Christ because of your music. And I said, so you're choosing to postpone 50,000 people coming to hear the gospel. And that becomes the point of, the purpose is never inward, the purpose is outward. So what am I holding back, not just for myself, because that would be selfish. It's not even about me. The gifts that we have are to be given to other people. Yeah. So when you stall them out, you're crippling others around you.
Well, this is a kind of a special place in my life, what we're talking about, like these artists and release. Did he ever release anything?
No. I mean, it was kind of local. He's a local hero, great, but it could have been national, but he never went to that level.
It's hard.
Oh, of course. It is.
For me, like, I'm a huge dreamer, right? I'm a creative person. I'm very passionate about pretty much anything. I'm very one track half the time, right? I'm gonna do this, and this. And I learned early on when I was 19 writing, songs, and I had to craft naturally systems as a creative. I remember I've probably written 400 or 500 songs maybe in my life.
Okay.
So I've written a lot, but I don't remember most of them because I wrote a lot of them before I actually wrote them down. Okay. Or I would write them down on a piece of paper. And so people are always like, are you naturally this disciplined or this calm or this? Like, no. When I was a teenager, I didn't plan a thing. Yes. I did a horrible at school and all these other things. Yes. That I was a very creative person. I just would create things. And, I remember this day, my school teacher, my senior year, was like, I had all these music classes, and he threw the curriculum out. It was the best teacher I ever had. His name was Mr. Ward.
Okay. Shout out to Mr. Ward.
Yeah. And he goes, you know what? He's like, I need you to write me a song a day.
Oh, wow.
And so for 6 months, my senior year, I wrote a song a day, and I had to give it to him and play it for him every day. He didn't know. I didn't know, but that was my reps. 2 years later, I went full-time and pursued it full-time at 20, right, as an artist, and then grew 8 records, 150 shows a year. The rest is history. Did it independently, and I've probably could have kept going. I know I could have actually. I had a lot of the chops and relationships that were started, and so for sure could have kept going, and to a whole nother level, and probably still going right now. Yes. And so we'll see. But I probably not, I am going to come back on with this, obviously, because I love people and I miss people. Yeah. But going back was I had to develop these processes. As a young artist, and the first process was get a piece of paper and write it down. The second process was, okay, you're losing all the pieces of paper. Put it in a binder. The third process was this really cool technology that came out, and the laptops became affordable. Type it all out, right? Yes. And so you're processing through these things. And I learned, literally from going from never planning to now, I earn my life through my dreamline model that I created, right? And I started in November. I just finished it yesterday. Like that's how detailed my entire life is. Every November I start on my 10-year dreams, right? And we've talked about this before, I think, but not so much in detail. But I've learned was I try to pour into others, and you know, we're going to start doing a course and masterminds just because I'm realizing dreaming is so awkward for people. And for me, from the outside, I don't think I ever lost that. And I'm trying to unpack, like, how do we replicate and get people to restart this child? So this subject that's why I told you podcast, we have no clue it's going to come about, right?
Yeah.
So as you're a dreamer too, right? You're innovative with this. So how do we help ignite? And if we could give someone advice and kickstarting Ignite, because I don't think it's gone. I just think it gets suppressed, right? How do we help people inspire their childlike wander again and dreams?
I think, first of all, we have to be understanding that a lot of people are right now living in a nightmare situation. You know, so before we can jump into let's dream, we have to stop
the nightmare,
the ghosts and all the hauntings and all the fears, and
drive into that. Explain that. What do you mean by that? People live in a nightmare.
Just, you know, when you're on a gerbil or hamster wheel, and it's just same in, same out, nothing. You know, I saw someone with a T-shirt that said, you know, same crap, different day, and it's like, wow, that's. I
want you to realize how foreign this is to me, right? I've never worked a job.
Okay.
Right? And so, like, I go, like, I'm a child. Like, what are you talking about? Because I want to understand where people are at, because Brittany always says, like, you're living people's dream.
Yeah. People are very frustrated because they may have had a dream. And, you know, once upon a time when you were a kid, it's like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be president. You know?
Yeah. You're dreaming.
Those are huge dreams. I don't even hear, the most dreams I hear kids talking about today even is, I want to be a sports figure. I
want to be a YouTuber, a gamer.
Oh, yeah.
I hear that stuff all the time.
And it's like, okay. But even in that, like I have a good friend of mine who had a son. He's like, oh, I want to be a professional basketball player. And the father said to me, he said, see, when the people I knew who did become professional players, they slept with the basketball. They go to school bouncing the ball. The ball's always touching. They're always touching it. You can't just show up and let me just shoot the ball every now and again against the garage.
Not because you're naturally talented. You're going to get outpaced. You're going to get outpaced.
Exactly. And even if you are naturally talented, we know Michael Jordan and others.
Someone else is going to be
even more so.
Absolutely.
They hustled even more.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. How big
it's
are you
structure.
Going to make your hustle?
It's discipline. It's being a disciplined person, disciplined thought, disciplined action, and a rigorous behavior.
Yes.
That's Jim Collins' good to great.
Consistency.
Consistency. That's what I'm saying. That consistency moving.
Right, because people could do that. Oh, I did it for 30 days. Okay, what happens on day 31? Day 32, day 33?
Yeah.
Creating it as your lifestyle, weaving it into who you are, because you have to catapult yourself out of fear.
So you mentioned this nightmare thing, though. Kind of get back into that.
Sure.
And because, like, for where I'm at, it's like, how do we, and critical path bridge, right, is something I've been talking a lot about. I kind of adopted Todd Hopkins' critical path he's created and do what I always do. I like the principle. Let me just go and make it my own, right? Tailor it to what. So I've created this thing called the critical path bridge that we're just starting to implement in my own team and infrastructure. And it was the missing link, by the way, to tying dreams and goals to actionable movements, right? And now we're actually seeing significant movement. Even though we were already seeing significant movement because we were putting forth effort, right? Now we're going to go, all right, effort, meet diligence, meet structure, meet strategy. Now you're going to 4X this year, right? Or those type of things. And you can almost calculate it because you do it enough, you go, this is the rhythm, right? And so sometimes when you've done something so frequently, I've been doing this now, living this way probably 20 years.
Okay.
Right? Like, just building blocks, like stepping stones, right? I've never had a normal life ever since I was 14. Like, I've never had a normal life. And so, and what I mean by that is normal's relative. I have just never been in the social norms of life. And so now that I'm in this place of, what's next? It's now, all right, well, how do we impact people and you're the first person that's ever said people are living a nightmare. Where I'm living my dreams, someone's living their nightmare.
Yeah. But see, when you said you have these systems in place and the bridge and thinking, you're saying if I do this, I'm going to do that. And see, you're planning it. You've got a planned process.
Well, that took 20 years to develop that.
But the nightmare person also has a process.
Yeah.
I'm going to work. I'm going to
Of
go
course.
in. I'm going to have a minimal attitude.
It's fear-based. Yeah.
They've got a process too, and they're getting they're getting the crop.
You get that's what I was getting at. How to elevate. How do we bridge people on this elevation level, right? This high level. Because the nuts and bolts, the principles, they're activating in the same principles.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? It's just two things name themselves, time and money.
Yeah.
These are actually working simultaneously, but everyone else is naming it for them.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? And they're just living their day by day. They're actually not dreaming.
Right.
So since they're not dreaming, they're living a nightmare.
Because it's a value.
Yeah.
It's the self-value is what's missing. I don't think that what I have to bring to the marketplace matters. I don't think that
Self-doubt,
I couldn't come up with an idea like that. What am I worth? What do I know? I don't trust myself. I tried. I stepped out like a turtle. I poked my head out a little bit.
Got smacked.
And I came back in.
You're gonna get smacked about 1,200 times. You gotta figure how do you get the tenacity.
Exactly.
So the first part, though, what I'm finding, it's hard for these guys to dream.
Yeah.
And that is where I'm like, all right, I'm wrestling with this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be selfish because now I've had more reps and I can now do anything I want, dream-wise. Mm-hmm. Not arrogantly in that regard, but just you cut the codes there. Like, I don't just turn it on, do it.
Right.
It's going to take 4 or 5 years, and then now you've succeeded.
Right.
Right? You kind of until you die, and then it's like until something throws you off. And so that I'm like full life. Right? I've lived a full life, and probably 4 or 5 lifetimes in almost 35 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at this like, well, this is a personal thing because we're talking about children, and I really didn't mean to ramble into this, but this is just such a great topic that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Is how do we empower people? And just start with the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the creatives, and then let that spill over into society to actually dream again.
I think it starts with listening, because to template, like there is no master plan, right? And so as a coach, I get to talk to persons individually, one-on-one. And I'm not going to say, I'll give you a great example. So I have an assignment here in Tampa. One of my assignments is to be a mentor. And I have a relationship with a young lady, a high schooler. And I took her to a international mall. And I'm like, man, look at this car. I don't even remember what kind of car it was, fancy. $89,000.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted to just like expand her mind to say, look at the possibilities.
Yeah.
She looked at the car. She was just shy of being offended. Like, why would I spend this type of money on this car? Like, I just want to live a life where I can pay my bills. Like her space was so repressed. But see, now that taught me, okay, now, so for her, we're going to talk about, wow, what could a $20 an hour job look like?
Yeah, it's ceilings.
That's meeting her where she is versus telling her all the things that I know she could do if she would. But for that to happen, I have to see with my eyes for her until she can see, because all right now she's looking at is getting a $20 job.
And I remember those days. I remember that, right?
Absolutely.
And so so you're right, bringing it down to help it and it's honestly, I think you hit on that.
Yeah. And so that's another thing too. Not bringing it down, because that's a high low. Going back to the word we used earlier, tailoring it to them, to that person, that individual, and then straight. So if it's here, I'm only here, and I'm like, oh, go here, nope. And she says I can go here, then I say, well, how about here? Like I'm not going to put
tailoring
it right
it to the next step.
Right. Well, maybe a step plus. Yeah. Because I still want you to stretch.
Yeah.
You still, because you can't just reach out. You're going to have to lean into what you want and take it, because life's a scramble. And it's like the ball's out. It's like jump ball. Like you got to jump.
Yeah. Well, I can see that, for me, realizing like I've had a lot of reps, right? 20 years worth of reps of this stuff. Sometimes it's not about age.
Oh, absolutely.
None of this is about age. It's really about the experience and how frequently you're practicing it.
Yeah.
Of this dreaming and this processing, and not just dreaming, but then developing the critical path to achieving your dreams.
Right.
And so you brought me back to my early stages of what I actually used to teach on. Is my job when I'm leading somebody in concert or anything like that. It's not to take them to the level that I've been to or that I'm at.
Right.
It's to take them to the next step and the next level they need to go to.
Yep.
And so frequently you get so passionate, I say you as in like people that are in this place, because you just want people to live this way because you see it, you taste it, you're experiencing the joys of it and the hardships of it and all the pain, and you go, oh, this is life.
Yeah.
And you just like, oh, well, you want this, here's how you do it. And you make them drink from a fire hydrant. Mm-hmm. When if you're a good leader, you give them a glass of water.
Oh, absolutely. Because guess what? If you give them the fire hydrant, they have not even designed the infrastructure to hold the weight of all that.
It'll drown them.
Yes. So you got to and one of the reasons we're not doing so well at that is because that takes time. All of that takes time. And who's got time? We're just trying to move forward, So if we would slow down.
As dreamers, you keep going. There's chasing the horizon. There's always another dream.
And that's the thing. So we got to decide, are we serious about helping people, or we just want to check, check, So, I mean, I'm one by one. That's, or a group, or even a group or mentor working together,
of course.
And
so much, you see that so much when you fall, even in so many people's dreams are tied to money. And I remember this stage. If I could just make $100,000 a year, right? Remember that? Were you ever in that place?
Of course, it's money measures things.
If I could make $100,000 a year,
absolutely,
my life will be. What happens when you make $100,000 a year?
You spend $120,000, and you're like, "Jeez,
man, if I can make 150, right? Yeah, it's the next one. And then after 150, what's the next one?
What?
250.
Yeah,
no, it's 250.
You're going over.
You level up. You don't even do the 200. You're like, man, I gotta make 20,000 a month.
Yep.
And you just go until you learn your regulation of like, hey, you know what? 250 is probably all anyone ever really needs to live a full life of just complete freedom.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know how many doctors I'll hang out with that like mortgage to the teeth, making $400,000 a year. They can't get a credit card.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just this whole stuff that happens, and you go, well, that's just exchanging your time. But even I'll talk to these guys who are high powered in society and that level, and they're on that that wheel.
Absolutely.
Right.
But someone said recently, I heard this, and I thought it was so powerful, because it deals with what's holding us back. And he said, our enemy is our inner fear. That's the real thing that's holding us back. So we can look at, I didn't get a chance. I wasn't born into the right family. I didn't have access. Yeah. Or we can say, what if? Because we're not born into a caste society. You know, we have an opportunity. If you didn't, let's just say, for example, fatherhood or motherhood. If you didn't have a great mom or father, look around you and see who you think is a great mom or dad. Yeah. And hey, can I just pick your brain? Can I spend some time with you? Like, you are not locked into the tragedy that you're using as that shouldn't be your backstop.
Absolutely.
That's the starting point. Now, where do I go? Don't let that be the ending point.
Absolutely.
Because that means the person who did that to you robbed you twice. Robbed you of your childhood, now is robbing you of your adulthood. So getting in gear for that.
So as we're working through this, it's coming back into childlike thought, right?
Yes.
Not childish behavior. Because I want to get into some of the other stuff that I think is really cool about your life and who you are. You're an author. You're just coming out with a new book, right? This is your second or third book that you're coming?
Probably 10th.
Your 10th book?
I've written a lot of books.
10 books?
I've written a lot of
You've only told me about 3.
Well,
I should have looked you up a little bit more.
You should have looked me up.
10 books. Yeah. 10 books. You and Corvelli are founders here at Crest. Yes, and so we were good friends, and you were the first 10 members here. And I've just bought into this vision. I'm so grateful to have you here in this. And to kind of like wrap through a lot of this childlike stuff, you're homeschooling, people lose this position of dreaming and their childlike belief and wander, usually through outside circumstances dictating them, like Santa Claus, this and that, yada, yada, yada. Your friends and your peers, they stop believing, you stop believing. Those type of things start moving. And so then you fast forward, and there's certain people that have work through the childish behavior and they're mature, but their wander's still there. What we were talking about is how to help people just take that first step to kind of wrap that thought. What would you say the first step is of someone who's caught in a nightmare? They have the desires, but they don't have the diligence to put forth to get those desires, right? And so then they don't dream it.
Yeah.
Right? They don't write it down. what would you say their first step to go from your nightmare to trying to achieve your dreams would be? The very first step.
I think, again, without trying to template it over everyone, but one thing that we're missing is clarity, and we're missing self-talk. We're missing introspection, right? So we look at all of that stuff, even the job and 40 hours a week, all that stuff that was told to us. So we're not asking ourselves questions about, well, what else could I do?
It starts with a question.
How else could I such and such? So to start having some real conversations with yourself instead of just, we tune out too much. We're either listening to the battering advertisements, it's just a lot of noise. So quieting ourselves down, and, if you're in a relationship with God, God, just being still. God, what would you have me to do? Because one of the big things is there's so much excess. There's too much stuff around us. Like, you can't even think.
Yeah, it's busy.
It's just too much. It's clutter, toxic clutter. It's so much stuff that's literally just trying to drown you every day. And you're just kind of bobbling, just like what is the thing in the water? A buoy. You're just bobbling along without, hey, hold up, wait, stop. No, let me think about, no, I can't do, no, no. And it's okay to say no in a season of going, I'm going deeper, not wider. I can't attend every function, do all, no. I'm pulling myself in. So when I come back out, absolutely. When I come back out, you're going to get a better version of me.
Yeah.
So give me space to, to grow.
The simplest principle to somebody who wants to go from their nightmares to the dream, simply start with a question.
Yes.
Ask questions.
Yes.
Don't start with statements of impossibilities.
Yes.
Simply start questions.
And yourself, right? Because that's the other thing too. People look here and, well, what does YouTube say about, what does IG say? No, what do you, because you're the only one who really knows you know, your potential, your dreams, and you may have to dig. A lot of times I say I am like a person who comes alongside, and we both put on our little bands with a flashlight on, and we're going to dig deep and go down inside of you and figure out. Now, for some people, we may, we're here. Here are your treasures. Like others, it's like, okay, it's week one.
There's a treasure map to all of us, right? Yes. I say that to my kids. There's a treasure map on all of us. We just got to take the time to look for it.
Absolutely. Now I can dig with you, but I can't dig for you.
Let's segue into this. Would you say that you guys were in politics or no? No. But you guys were surrounded by politics.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because you guys worked in D.C.
He worked in D.C. We before D.C., though, we were both military officers. So we had that, and that's the apex of politics, you know, just why we are where we are. We served in Panama during the Noriega conquest, if you will. So there's a lot of politics around there. Decisions, and that's the thing. Our lives were dictated by outside forces.
Now, how high up did you guys go as officers?
2 captains. We were both captains.
You guys were both captains.
Yeah, and that was a very I've had really good seasons, but that was certainly one of the best seasons of my life.
Then you got upgraded to general, right, with the kids.
Oh my gosh, yes. I tell you, the parenthood, I just take my hat off to parents and the structure, and getting these little seeds, and like, okay.
And they don't come with handbooks.
Oh, not at all.
You had the baby, you spend a couple days in the hospital, if you're in the hospital, then they just give you this thing, and you got to figure out what to do with it. I hope I don't mess it up.
Can I take that nurse home with me? No, ma'am.
No, you can't. Well, I could pay her. No, we need her here. Okay, all right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Some people do that, though. Some people bring in nurses. But they're missing out on some of the greatest joys of life.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
I mean, Brittany last night was just covered in puke last night. And you go, that's a mom. Didn't even flinch. Yeah. I almost threw up.
Yeah. to be quite honest, to be quite honest,
it's pretty gross. You didn't flinch. It happened 2 times yesterday.
Oh, my gosh.
While I was there. This is fantastic.
Oh,
all right.
My gosh.
Hats off to you. You're the general in this.
I remember we were driving. We had a minivan one time, and Corelli's driving. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. 3 rows. The 3rd row is like this huge bumblebee, wasp or something, all the way in the 3rd row. We're just driving, and the kid in the back is like, and I jumped up out of my seat. went back 3 rows.
You were driving?
No, he was driving. And I'm like, in 2 fell swoops, dot, dot, dot. And Corvelli's like, wow.
How'd that just happen?
I'm like, no, because you were trying to hurt my kid. The bug,
mama bear. They call it the mama bear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. It's there. So you and Corvelli were raising kids in Baltimore and D.C. area, right? So, or you lived in Baltimore. He commuted into the city.
He commuted into D.C. And when I was 9 months pregnant, this is crazy. So we left Panama. We were both stationed at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and we bought a house in Baltimore. I'm 9 months and, still related to the military. And we would drive to the train station in Baltimore, take a train into D.C., catch a metro to go into Northern Virginia, get a parked car that we had there, and drive into Fort Belvoir.
Really?
And we did that all the way.
Wow.
for several.
DC is the worst traffic in the country.
Yeah. Well,
I always say that. In my opinion.
I think Atlanta tops it.
I don't know. I've driven Atlanta a lot. DC was the worst. All right, we'll agree to disagree. DC is awful.
Look, Tampa's not too far. Tampa's
I'll agree.
edging up there.
Atlanta and Tampa with the great exodus and the great everything that's happening right now is. I agree. Tampa, it's getting there.
Far, yeah,
things are getting. We are growing rapidly, and we don't have the transit that we need. So. Digressing from that. So the thing was back onto this childlike wonder and what you do, you coach women to really find their identity again. How to define what that is.
So I'll give you an example. So let's say a woman is like, you know what, I'm in college and I want to be a literature major. I want to, explore writings of, neoclassical literature. And she's passionate about that. She's excited. She's, just enthralled. And then she graduates and, takes a job doing ABC, whatever, starts a family. And this big dream that she had, I want to continue. I want to study under the greats and all that. It just gets smaller and smaller, just like a little sugar cube. And so when I come along, it's like, well, let's talk about your earlier dreams, the ones that are up on the shelf, like you can hardly reach them high up. Let's talk about those and let's get them off, get them down. Let's dust them off and let's appropriate them into this season. Yeah. So you can bring life back into them. So you may shift on your focus, but because now you were talking like an 18-year-old child, 19, 20. Now you're 30, 32, 33. Tell me what that looks like now. Yeah. How could
in this context of this season? Yes,
because you're bringing
that's so important.
So much more to the equation than you had at this age, So let's talk about that. So whatever it was,
Me and Brittany talk about that regularly, and you coach Brittany. I think it's awesome. She's just, I love Brittany. She's my wife. She's a superhero.
Yes,
and just like it's funny. She'll watch me do these different things, and she finally gets with you, and I was like, I've been telling you to do that for years. Well, she sees the worst of me. She sees me fail all the time and everything. It's like, okay. Well,
oh my gosh.
But it works. I promise, honey, it does work. And so she's got this thing on her fridge that you know, and she killed it. She did a great job with that. And I'm so grateful for you in her life. And you, I don't care. I'll just put the Amex on it. If she's trying to bounce from that, you just don't let her bounce from it. It's so good for her.
And you're right,
so good for her.
It's the consistency. Yeah. And I told this to a friend yesterday. I said, here's for me why it's important to touch women. Because if you're a woman who is lurking in the greatness of who you're supposed to be, and you've minimized yourself, and you're just kind of peeing around the house and peeing around your little environment, guess who's watching you?
Your kids.
Your daughter, your son, and they're like, oh, so that's what a powerful mom looks like. That's what a mom who's all in looks like. And then they shrink. Yeah. And it's like, no,
how do you grow them? How do you expand them?
Yes, all of that. Yeah. So that's the excitement of teaching women. I say this all the time. It's no shade on men, but I say if I teach a man, I'm teaching a man. If I teach a woman, I'm teaching a family. Yeah. Because if I talk to that woman about eating right, she's the one shopping. It's like, most okay, of the time, if I say, you know what, woman, sleep is your superpower. Sleep is going to turn your entire rest. It's going to turn your entire. She's going to go home and she's going to say, 9 o'clock, lights out for everyone. Because she understands when she's on her game, she can help the entire household be on this game. That's why I love women. Their potential, their multitasking ability, all of
massive.
that. They're just amazing.
Massive.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's finding your identity in a season is extremely dangerous too.
Tell me more.
I'm just saying, finding your identity in any season is dangerous, right? So I believe in this. I think if you identify and you find your identity in your teens and you peak in high school, right? Your identity is found in that season.
Got you.
You peak in your 20s,
Yeah.
right? And you try to act like you're in your 20s when you're 40s. You just look strange, right? I mean, it's this whole thing. Or then as you begin to try to act like you're in your 20s, and I've seen this personally, it keeps going. People that get into their later years in life, their 60s and 70s, there's a whole ton of regret. Whole ton of regret.
Yeah.
Because, and then they can't do it anymore. Because if you look at it like farming, you're a child, you're watching your father and mother plant the seed, water it, plow it. It's hard. You become a young adult, a teenager, you're helping your father do it. You become a man. You're doing it alongside your father, doing it together. And as your father ages, you're doing it, and he's coaching you still. Right? And then as you age again, your son's going up with you. That's just an example. And now this father's feeble.
Yeah.
And you have to take care of him. Now he's eating the grain that you're now doing.
Yeah.
Right? And so that is what I think is life. It's a season of I'm a baby.
Absolutely.
A to Z. Yeah. And there's beauty in every season.
Yeah.
And there's power in every season. But if your identity as a mom or as a dad comes to I am going to be the best dad and the best mom to my little children, that's awesome. But that's only going to last for 10, 20 years.
Right.
And then what's going to happen? It's going to explode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's going to be crisis. You're going to get divorced. You're going to have all these different things that happen. And it's just like enjoying the seasons. Yeah. And also the reality.
And being the best person in the season. That's more fluid. I'm going to be the best person versus title. You know, something that I do want to say, there's new scientific research that said, and this is good news for people who are aging, but people bring your A game. It's like 60, believe it or not, 60s and 70s can be the most profitable time for people because their level of, I don't care what you think, their level of wisdom, their level of pulling all these things in. It's like, I've drawn 7 decades of knowledge. Now here it is. This is my pile of Legos. What am I going to build?
Yeah, well, with technology, it's really helped us with that as a society. Yep. I mean, it's like before the average age was 65 that they would expect someone to pass away.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so if you can live to be 80 or 90 and have a quality of life through technology and health and, healthcare and those type of things, it makes perfect sense that's coming out now. 60, 70, of course, it's going to become the new 50, 55.
Absolutely. Just with creativity. And because at one time also, it was like, I'm just trying to, and look, we're here, right? You say living the dream. I'm just trying to make it to Florida so I can retire and chill and go to the beach. It's like, well, that's all you're going to do. Like because if you have any ideas, if you can show us where the bridge is a bridge out up there? Let us know there's a bridge out,
Oh, it's so true. You have to keep the leaders who have been successful, the entrepreneurs who have been successful. Yes. They got to come back and pour back in.
Yes.
They got to come back and pour, and that's what creates a vibrancy within society, within communities like Crest, startup communities, all this stuff. And man, we're just having a great conversation. Are you having fun?
I'm having a great time.
Yeah, we're going to do this again.
This is awesome.
This is great. So we're pretty much almost like an hour in.
Okay.
And so last one I ended up going way over, and we made that 2 episodes. And so I'm gonna try to not do that, and because there's just a lot going on. But I want to have you back, and because this is fun. It's we just started doing this.
Absolutely.
So I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm having fun doing it. I'm having fun doing it, and people say this is cool. I don't know. I'm not doing it for that. I just really wanted to get.
Chilling,
I wanted to get to know our members, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing with this stuff. Like that's the beauty of this, and people have to ask, if they've listened to enough of these, they know what's coming. Because this is just, I'm constantly trying to grow and learn about who are the people that are in my life right now in this season that I can serve to the highest level as a leader and be able to then influence through resources and to really foster on the outside this complex thing that's coming. It's happening on its own.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. There's this synergy. There's this 1 + 1 = 100 model that's happening. I'm already seeing it.
Right.
We're only a year in.
Yeah.
Right. And that's fun, right? We've known you guys longer than this. We went to church together, those type of things, and so that's why I want to ask you, like, why did you guys join Crest? I mean, you guys were the first 10. Within the first 10, you walked through. There's still drywall. It's like, and you were here like a year ago, and I'm like, hey, do you guys want to do this? And you guys came back, and then you said yes. So what prompted that yes? Why did you guys even join?
Well, I will say this. The first time we came, you've been talking about it and just your passion and energy and excitement. We're like, okay, what's going on here? And we got here, and in my mind, like, I'm always prepping myself. Yeah. So when I'm like, okay, when we pull up on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is like, wow, the paint's dry and this is looking fantastic. And 1 is like, well, this is the land where we're going to build. So I'm like, I'm expecting that things will be at like a 4. Yeah. And that'll be okay. Let me just take it at that. And I got here and things are like at an 8.5. I'm like, what? Like, this man, he's walking. I don't know how to do things halfway. That was my whole thing. Just the timing though, right? It's like he's walking his truth. Yeah. Right. And that the concept was great, the aesthetics, like everything that you said was going to be here. We saw the actual form of it. And that integrity was just like, yeah, let's do this.
This is before we had any members.
I know.
It was just like, this is an idea.
I know.
No one sees. I'm just going to do it.
But it becomes, if he said it, and this is what it is, how can we join and continue to say it, and then
that's awesome.
It expands,
So you guys were, so I said I was going to do something, and then did it. Yep. And then you're like, you know what?
He's serious.
He's going to do this. We better jump onto this and be a part of this.
I think he's serious.
Yeah. And so many of my friends that are founders, at the end of the day, I felt like it was like a pity, but I don't think it was a pity join. I think it's, as I'm talking to people, they're more like, no, I just realized you're going to do this.
Yeah, this is good.
And I should probably be a part of this because you're going to do this. This is going to be real. And I know you enough. You're going to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, that makes me feel good because I'm just so grateful to have you guys here. Yeah. And we're a year in of soft launching. It's been a year.
Yeah.
We launched in 4 months ago, and we're officially at 50 members. 50.
Wow.
It's January 4th.
That's lovely.
We went from 0, and I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do this, guys.
Wow.
And you guys have always been such a huge encouragement to me. I'm like, I'm losing this much money. It's okay. Just stay the course.
Yes.
Don't give in. Don't, right? And you go, all right. Yeah. So you and Corvelli have always been that, hey, just slow and steady. Yeah. We know that you know how to do X over here. Yeah. And I know it's tempting to do these zeros over here, but trust me, this is really valuable. This is really because that's why I love this, is the impact that we can make in people's lives. Yeah. And just producing quality community. Have we talked about that? Like kind of honing it in. Crest is just a quality community space where entrepreneurs, creatives, and leaders thrive, connect, and dream. Everything else is ancillary. I've just stopped talking after that. You just go, done. That's nice. All we're doing. Yeah. And however you want to see it, it's yours. Yeah. If not, no big deal. Yeah. It's not for you.
Exactly.
Maybe it will be for you in the future. We love you.
Yeah.
Come by anytime. Amen. Right? That's the whole heartbeat of it.
Come get a coffee.
Yeah, anytime you want.
Yes.
And so that's awesome. So what have you now gotten out of being not just a founding member, but just a member of the community? What have you gotten that you weren't actually expecting?
So I will say this, that typically, I'll say typically, you're in a business environment with peers, colleagues. There's a competition. There's not, there's some jabby edges around, and it's like, are you really for me? Do I need to?
Do I need to watch my back?
I'm getting ready to move. Let me get my bag. Let me take, and when every time I'm here, the vibe, like I'm really big into vibrations, and when I walk in, the positive vibe, the creative vibe, the productivity vibe is always high. The vibration amongst the people, because those are the ones who are putting it out. People who are looking to, hey, iron, sharpen, let's work together. And that whole piece is so it's the foundation, you know, and that's a difference maker, because as we express that, the new people who are drawn here will also feel welcome, you know, trustworthy, excited to be here, and cheered on, and that matters, you know, because in any other situation, it's like, well, you might be able to do it. Like, we're like, oh yeah, you can do it. Let's talk about how.
Of course,
come on, yeah.
Oh, that's easy. What are you talking about?
Yes. Hey, come over here. Like, what do you think about this? You know, so that collaborative.
I don't know how many times it's happened.
is-
Somebody's like, "This is an impossible thing." Oh no, that's easy. Hold on. Hey, come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
yeah.
wait, what do you mean? Well, he's already done that like 20 times. You got this, right?
Yes.
And you go, who, not how.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It
yeah.
really happens all the time, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm, and just, it's the constant innovation too. This is not a place to sit on your laurels, right?
Yeah.
So if that's coming from the leadership, then when you join as a partner, as a team member, you're going to be like, well, here's my end product. And we're like, no, that's version A.
That's your draft. That's a draft.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and in a loving way, and in a way that's going to challenge you, like to be in a place that always wants you to be better, you know, celebrates where you are.
Yeah, celebration,
but also
exactly. Yeah.
where else, you know, what else? This is great. You know, what could you do with this here? And, you know, what about in...
That's where the thriving comes in.
Yes.
How do we get you to thrive? This is
Yeah.
really good. All right, now let's connect the dots a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's also, you've gotten that out of it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And that is just naturally, I'm so pumped that that's actually occurring, because that's what I desired
Yeah.
for it to happen.
Yeah.
And it's working. I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is so. Final thing, what can we just be doing better at? What are we failing at? Even with all the great successes, there's still a lot of margin that we're just are young in.
You know, so one concern I have is with success, how it's measured, and the pace at which people want it. And so I'm here knowing that we're in process.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, as we move through and, oh, you dropped the ball here, it's just like in my opinion, we just need to be taking note of that. Oh, get it back in line. Oh, get it back in line. So it's not, it's a healthy critiquing of the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus, oh, you drop, oh, I can't believe. Like,
of course.
we don't have time for that.
Yeah, no, we don't have time for that.
So I think we're doing a great job. I think
that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. That's
so
the
really
process.
dig deep. Where can we? I mean, we're staying the course. We had this morning. We had a meeting of the minds on defining our foundational KPI questions, which is something that no one's ever taught me.
Right.
Asking the right questions about key performance indicators. Right. And do you have KPIs for your business and all that stuff?
I don't, but I'm familiar with
it.
Yeah.
So I encourage everyone to identify these right questions and these right metrics you can measure daily. Right. We have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual KPIs. That are hit on every single day, just 2 questions a day, 7 questions a week, and you're just measuring it through software, right?
Yeah.
And you're tweaking, you're adapting, and you're growing. And so this is where it's coming from, like on nuts to bolts. What can we do better to connect? And I'm glad. And facilitate connection. Not so much, we can't actually make this happen. It's too complex.
Right.
But the complicated systems on the exterior walls that helps kind of filter and house the serendipity of community and startups, really, entrepreneurs, people working from home, people that are desperate for connection, and people that are just like unsatisfied with the status quo, right?
So I think we do. I'll say it this way. I think we do a better job reaching out to the community and providing, certain events.
So we can do a better job offering events.
No, we do a better job doing outreach than we do internally.
Oh, so we should do more internal events.
Right. So, but again, it starts with defining who we are. Like, who do we want to be? Are we doing the events the way, oh, we're good, we're just trying to be casual colleagues? Or we're like, do we really want to intentionally, well, let's pile in on this person's business. I'll give an example. There's a couple here who has a particular business. They invited us to just take a look at their, they were having a meeting, online meeting, and we popped in, and it's like, oh, so this is what they do. Cool. Like, just to know what each other, what our forte is.
Internal connections.
Right. So then we can honestly leverage that to when I meet the guy down the street next week, it's like, oh, I got a guy back at Crest who could serve you. You gotta meet. So I don't think we're there yet. And
we need to get there because it's by the end of this year, the goal is to be at 300 members.
Yes.
And we have to start developing that stuff now internally to maintain the culture, or it's just going to be another machine that's very efficient, very effective, very good and profitable, but it just won't be
right. It'll be shallow. It won't be deep. Going
if we don't think about it now.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also using the technology to our advantage. For example, I'm not sure who put it together, Travis. I don't know who put it together, but the whole app. I think we're underutilizing that.
We are underutilizing
and it's
that.
like it's
we're
a
working
great
on that.
tool. It's phenomenal, but no, it's crickets.
Well, so much of that app it's a part of our CRM. And so much of that we're realizing that we need to make hard is the check-in system.
Yeah.
Once people, it's getting the habit of someone actually using the app, getting familiar with the app.
Absolutely. Because I was very excited, and I'm
I.
But then it was like, no one else is on here. Well, I guess
why am I going to use it? So now we're literally starting this year. We are changing some of our lock systems and those type of things.
Yeah.
That's what my brother was really excited about. Hey, we figured out this app that uses this that actually is open source, so that people the door's going to be locked by the cafe.
Oh,
it's going to require every member to actually physically check in to unlock the door, and require their guests to actually check in through the reception app.
Okay.
So, and then the members we're going to put that responsibility on the individual. If you have a guest here, you have to come down professionally and bring them in.
Gotcha.
Just like you would. And we're finding that just one rhythm, and then we're going to go to a credit system. And so we'll give enough credits for, like, say, the podcast studio to be used.
Okay.
2 hours a week, and then after that, it's $50 an hour.
Gotcha.
Right. And so basically buying in. So then, because, when you're at 15, 20 people, it's the Wild West. It's like, who cares? We're just having fun. And now we're at 50. It's like, we've actually ran out of conference room space for someone's backpack.
Yes.
I'm not going to name the who that it was. It was one of the founders. His backpack was and I was like, dude, I got a whole conference. And so that's what I love about the journey. It's like, I have no clue what I'm doing. This is awesome, guys.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're having a time of our life doing it. People love it, but that's really good. So just trying to figure out how to use our internal processes more internal, which I think it's next week we're doing our first networking event.
Okay.
Next Thursday.
Okay.
We're going to blow that out.
Yes.
It's not just going to be members. We're going to invite other people. But we're going to do that the second Thursday.
Okay.
And then the last Thursday of every month, the Crest Chats.
Nice. Okay.
And then one thing, so we're kicking around some ideas to make it more to help produce, and then obviously the I told you about that Crest Mastermind, Crest Incubator type thing, getting these small sects of 10 to 15 people together, bought in at a higher level, where it's more intimate, to grow, to actually really do life, rather than just use the brick and mortar space. That's more content. So we're going to create courses and things, and just because we're realizing there's a huge need, and we have a ton of information and wealth that if we hoard it to ourselves, we're just going to make ourselves more successful. And that's not what this is all about. This is, hey, if you've already earned some level of success, learn how to, that law of reciprocity, learn how to give that back, right? And invest in this next younger one. A member mentioned yesterday pitching, what if we actually really did on one section, an actual real incubator where you're like, hey, I'll help you start this. And there's this equitable distribution of starting it. And because that's a lot, you don't want to just give somebody because then the value is not there.
Of course. Yeah.
And there's a lot of effort when you have high caliber people giving this information. It's intellectual property. So I'm dancing with that. And that's what this next year is going to be.
Wow.
And so I appreciate you saying that, because it like pushes me. It's a lot of work, but it just drives me forward as a leader. Now that my team's functioning. And one of the big things too is, by the end of this quarter, the entire facility is going to run itself. So the people and the employees I have, we will focus on literally growing them and growing the community of connections.
Okay.
So that the building can actually run itself.
Wow. That's
through
fantastic.
technology. So I'm working.
Of course.
Yeah, that's some. So I love. That's why it's awesome, because it just that we are failing at that. And those are some solutions I'm trying to run through and create. But I need that love and that accountability of admit, like, hey, that is a failure, and then that's why I'm sharing. Hey, I thank you for sharing that, because this is what I'm thinking. You just encourage me that we're actually looking down the right path. We don't have it figured out yet, but those are some of our solutions. What do you think? You have any other solutions that you'd add to that? Anything that, because you have a coaching, we'd love to come along. We don't have to have our own masterminds. You can start your own and facilitate through your own coaching company. here, because this is just a blank canvas
Yeah.
for you. It's ancillary for
Yeah,
you.
I will say that because I am a transplant, this has been a blessing for me too, because I want myself and my husband, we want to connect and network and meet other people out, in different scenarios that are, safe, productive. Like we're not at the space where we're just going to waste time. Like we want to be very intentional and productive with our time. It's valuable, and we want to make it count. So just to be in this space and to create, and for me specifically to reach women in Tampa. Like, so right now I can coach around the country and even globally. I can sell my coaching books around, everywhere. But there's going to be a special spot that I'm still defining for face-to-face, maybe group coaching, things of that nature for women in Tampa. So I'm excited to see, just how God will present that to me. I'm not trying to rush that. I have other things on the plate now, but I know that's going to be a part of my Tampa impact. So I'm looking forward to that. So I don't have a final answer, but I know it's like that little cloud. I can cover it with a quarter, but as it rolls in, I can see it, more, in a more full picture.
Well, let's push out your website and your new book.
Okay,
we're going to put it up here, and people can search for it. So, what is it?
So the book is called Vibrant Life Coach. The name of my company is Vibrant Life Coaching, and the book is Vibrant Life Coaching Devotional Botox. Devotional Botox.
Devotional Botox.
So it's a 365-day devotional.
Okay.
And the Botox comes from jerking out the slack in your inner person.
Got it.
So So it's themed on 12 different subjects, one per month. So subjects like gratitude, forgiveness, courage, self-talk, being intentional, purpose, things of that nature. And then each month you're just drilling down specifically on how to. And the reason it's important, the way it's written, is that there are a lot of questions that I'm posing to you to ask yourself, to get into the mind, well, why am I like this? And how am I stuck? Or what would it look like if I did this? Because I just want you to start having these conversations with yourself. And the cool thing about it too is that at the end of the year, sometime in the last quarter, you can reach out to me for a one-on-one coaching session see what does this look like? Are you actually applying it in your life? What kind of pushback did you get? How did it feel? And where do you go from here? So it's a devotional. Today is what
Where can people get it?
They can get it on my book website, which is called vibrantlifebooks.com.
Vibrantlifebooks.com.
Vibrantlifebooks.com. And you will see on that site the devotional, and you'll see my 10 other books.
All your other books.
My homeschool book. I've got a book on homeschooling there, and just it's all about. Here's the takeaway. I want to give you such good information that I can step out of the picture and you can learn to coach yourself in my absence.
That's awesome.
Because you gotta stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta be your own cheerleader. You gotta learn how to do that. You gotta learn how to encourage yourself, because the world it's not their job to encourage you. And so what do you say to yourself at 2:00 in the morning? That's what I want to get you to be like. Yes, I can't wait.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So vibrantlifebooks.com.
Vibrantlifebooks.com.
And that's how they can get in touch with you and any of that. Everything can go through vibrantlifebooks.com.
Yes.
VIBRANT LIFE books.com. BOOKS.com. Awesome.
Yes. So thank you.
That's huge.
And let me just throw one more site, Coaching Crayons. If you want coaching sessions from me, you can go to that.
Is that link through vibrantlifebooks.com? Does it link through?
It's the other way. Coaching Crayons links you to
okay.
Life Books. But they're both of my websites.
So the main website is what?
Because I want to share the book, I'm going to leave the Vibrant Life Books as the main website. Yeah. But you can find me. All my contact information is on there for sure. So, we'll
put both the websites up there.
Okay.
Coaching Life Crayons.
Coaching Crayons.
Coaching Crayons.
It's like I'm going to teach you how to draw out of
the
the
Crayola
box.
crayon.
Yeah, because you're like right here. We're like afraid.
Coaching Crayons.
Crayons.com. Yeah, my kids.
COACHCRAYONS.
There you go. Look at you.
.com. Yeah, Coach. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't spell very well, So that's a pretty big win for me that I could do that. Yeah, I was doing it as a guest. I think I got it.
You're hilarious. Oh, my gosh. But
Awesome.
yes,
Well, thank you so much for coming.
This has been a privilege and an honor. And
Time just zips
a great
through.
time. My goodness.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
I'll tell you. Here
Yeah.
we go. 2023.
2023, here we go.
Ready, set,
Come
go.
on,
Here
let's
we
go
go.
get it.
Yes, yes.
Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this Let's Get Coffee podcast here with
Yes.
Jeremy Vanderloop and Coach Kim McDaniel. We're here at
Yes.
Cress, online, physically here in Tampa,
Yes.
and as we grow all over the world, hopefully,
Yes.
depending on when you're listening to
Absolutely.
this. So appreciate you guys. Have a great and happy New Year.
Yes.
No matter when you're listening to this, just have a great day.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank
God
you.
bless you.